Welcome back, y'all, and happy Wednesday. It's a beautiful day here in Atlanta, Georgia. The birds are chirping, the dogs are barking. So it's about that time to start talking some Tennessee baseball and March Madness. Also have a couple of recruiting nuggets that I want to bring to the channel, and unfortunately do have an injury update for our football team. And I want to talk about this new proposed NIL bill here in the state of Georgia that could impact Tennessee's NIL in the entire country. If you do enjoy our content, please do make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. If you would like to support us further, you can do so by donating as little as $1 to our Cash App and scanning that Cash App QR code wherever it is on the screen. You could also become a member of the channel. All those links will be down in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump into it. All right, y'all, let's start with the baseball team. We're one of 5 or so confirmed college teams that will be featured in MLB The Show 2025, which drops on March the 18th. And this is a huge deal for several reasons. Number one, let me just tell you, I'm not sure if any of the players' names will be in this game, but if their image and likeness is in the game, then they're going to have to get paid something. And if we're only going to be, one of the handful of teams in all of college baseball that gets this honor, then that's huge for Tony V to go out and get even more players. Obviously, there's so much buzz surrounding our baseball team coming off of the national title with a very strong roster last season, but this season's roster looks even better on paper. So expect for us to continue to dominate for the foreseeable future. And I'm going to bring up the schedule for y'all. The first game will be next Friday. It's going to be a 3-game series versus Hofstra. And we'll just kind of scroll through here and kind of highlight some of the bigger games. So we're going to have our first big game versus Oklahoma State. That's going to be February the 28th. That's on a Friday. Then we have Arizona March the 2nd. Keep on scrolling. And we actually, I believe, have, yes, SEC play starts on March the 14th. We're going to start that off with the 3-game series versus Florida. And then we've got Alabama. We got South Carolina. Texas A&M, who is always a very good baseball team. Ole Miss, who always has a very good baseball team as well. Kentucky. We got LSU. They always have a very good baseball team, too. We already know the SEC is deep in pretty much every single sport. Auburn's going to be after that. Then we have Vandy. We all know that they're a very good baseball team historically. Arkansas, they've been good here lately. And then the SEC tournament starts on March the 20th. All right, y'all, now let's shift gears to our basketball team. We have a very big game coming up tonight at 7 o'clock. It will be at home versus Missouri. And what you're looking at currently are all of the potential 1 seeds at this point. We have KenPom, who has 1 through 4 is Auburn, Duke, Houston, Tennessee. The AP and the coaches poll are the exact same. It's Auburn, Duke, Alabama, and Tennessee. So we are right now sitting in a spot where we could potentially get a 1 seed. Also looking at this, obviously, man, the SEC is very, very strong. And we barely lost to Auburn. We actually had to go to Auburn. I think that loss is actually going to look good for Tennessee. We're going to have Alabama coming up. We'll take a look at the schedule here in just a second. But we're going to have Alabama coming up towards the end of the year. And that's a game that if Tennessee wins, man, that could also be very big for us to make sure that we can get a 1 seed heading into March Madness. And this is Tennessee's remaining schedule. Like we just talked about, we do have Missouri coming up tonight. They're currently ranked 15th in the country. After that, we have Oklahoma. Then we have to go to Kentucky. We get to host Vandy, and hopefully we can get them back for them beating us in a game that we honestly should have won. But Vandy has looked pretty good over these past couple of weeks. Really, since we played them, they've looked pretty strong. And then we have Texas A&M. We have to go to A&M. We have to go to LSU. We get to host Alabama. That's going to be a huge one. I think that, if Tennessee obviously could win out, that would be huge. But really, some of the bigger games is going to be for sure Kentucky need to beat Vandy. A&M is going to be a really big one. Definitely want to beat Alabama. Then we have Ole Miss. After that, we have South Carolina, and then we're going to be getting into SEC tournament play. Now, very good news for Tennessee. It sounds like ZZ and Igor will be back tonight. And if our entire team can operate the way that we looked in the previous game whenever they were both out, then we're going to definitely be a team that could go very far in the tournament. And like we talked about last week, kind of felt like that game was almost kind of like a blessing in disguise for Tennessee just to get some of the other role players up and going. You got to be out there playing with confidence, especially once we get to the tournament. But if we can, have a very strong finish to this season, I do expect that Tennessee more than likely will end up with the 1 seed. And that's crazy because, just a couple of weeks ago, we didn't really see that happening. We said, hey, it's going to be tough for it to happen. And yeah, this is a very tough schedule, But I think that Tennessee can pull it out. I think that we're playing with a high level of confidence. I want to see guys like Shaq continue to drive to the basket. I want to see guys like Ganny continue to find his shot, especially with those jumpers, and get to the basket as well. Chaz, can you get to the basket some more? Can we feed our post players some more and continue to play good defense, which we know with Rick Barnes, that's not ever going to, go anywhere. So I think that Tennessee is going to be just fine. And I'm very much looking forward to the rest of this season heading into March Madness. All right, y'all, now let's shift gears to football. I want to start this thing off with an injury update. It does sound like four-star linebacker from the 2025 class, Jaden Politi, is scheduled to have surgery here very, very soon. It's a very minor surgery, but he is expected to miss all of spring, should be back for fall camp. So at some point over the summer, he should be good to go. Again, it's very, very minor. It's just something that he needed to get cleaned up. And it does kind of suck because he's a player that's so versatile. We talked about it. He's a 3-for-3 guy. He can play on all three levels of our defense. In the spring is typically where you will see our coaches trying to cross-train guys and getting a really good look at them, especially these freshmen. So he's going to kind of be set back from that perspective. But he is also going to have the chance in fall camp to maybe showcase some of his skills in some different spots. He might be maybe plugged in a little bit more to just like that inside linebacker sort of a spot. But he's such a good athlete that I think once he gets out there, the coaches will see where he will fit this team at the best. And he is a guy that I would expect as a true freshman should be able to contribute for our Volunteers. And Jaden's former teammate at Buford High School, Bryce Perry Wright, who's a four-star defensive lineman in the 2026 class and can play any defensive line position in any scheme. Very tough to block. He's a guy that I've been on to come to Tennessee for a long time. He dropped 5 official visits, and Tennessee's not on here. Now, he can't take more OVs than this, but right now what we're looking at is Auburn, Clemson, Georgia, Texas, and Texas A&M. Something that I have heard is that Tennessee kind of fell off from talking to him as much as they probably should have for a little period of time. It does feel like Tennessee has kind of picked that back up. But if anybody that's in touch with the staff can hear this, or if they can talk to the staff and let them know, he's a guy that Tennessee definitely needs. You just need to stay on top of him, and I'll try to do the rest, right? Like, I'm going to do my best to bring him on home, but he is a guy for sure that Tennessee needs coming up in the 2026 class. And we got to make sure that we're staying consistent. At Buford High School, there's a ton of talent there. There's more players that we might actually have on this show that Tennessee definitely needs coming up. But just the entire area, like Metro Atlanta, stay on top of these players. You can pretty much, live here, not have to focus your efforts in too many other places because there is so much talent. So that is one thing that I was a little bit discouraged about in seeing that he doesn't have us, as one of his 5 OVs. But again, he can take as many as he wants these days. I don't know if he wants to set up any more than that because at some point, man, I'm telling you, that stuff does get old. But maybe Tennessee could offset one of those OVs and, take the place of one of those teams. The main place that I don't want him to go, as y'all all know, is the University of Georgia. And this is something that I just saw last night. It's the top 10 offensive tackles according to On3's final rankings. I don't know how I missed this before, but David Sanders started everything off as the number 1 offensive tackle in the entire country. They bumped him down to number 3, and we all know this is a tale as old as time. As soon as, especially these highly rated players commit to Tennessee, sites like On3 want to give him a drop in their rankings for absolutely no reason. And I'm not throwing shade at any player whenever I say this, but I have watched film on Will Black and Michael Fasusi, who are both excellent, excellent players. I think that Will Black is more comparable to a David Sanders just because he's 6'8", about 290 pounds. David Sanders is about 6'6", 290 pounds, and they're both really good athletes. I would definitely give the edge to David Sanders, though. David Sanders is a different level of athlete, probably the best athlete that I've ever seen personally, from the high school ranks as an offensive tackle. And then whenever you look at a guy like Michael Fasusi, he looks maybe a little bit more college ready. He's about 6'5", 300 pounds, might be a little bit stronger at the point of contact, but he's not anywhere near the caliber of athlete as these other 2 players. So worst case, David Sanders should have only dropped to number 2. And really, after watching Will Black go up against some better competition, because he's from one of those up north, like northeastern states where the football is decent in some spots, but I'm going to tell you right here, right, it's nothing like the South, not even close. And he looked dominant there. But once he went up against some people that were more on his level in the All-Star game, I wasn't overly impressed. Now, again, I think that he is very, very good, but I saw him get beat a lot more times than I saw David Sanders get beat. Really, David Sanders never actually got beat, in his All-Star game. He, halfway got beat, right? So like he started off getting beat, but he was able to finish it strong. So it's really not even close. And they're going up against, the same level of competition in those settings. It's not even close. There is no reason that David Sanders dropped it. I know some of y'all probably saw this and were probably pissed off about it, just like I kind of was. But this is the time, man. Hopefully David Sanders uses that as a motivation to come out and prove everybody wrong. But I'm going to tell you straight up, really the top four here, all those guys look tremendous whenever they all come out for the NFL draft. That's going to be a very strong offensive tackle draft because, yeah, it's super, super deep. But want to get those thoughts out. Let's get on to the last segment. And last but certainly not least, let's talk about this new NIL bill that's being presented here in the state of Georgia. It's called SB 71. Shouts out to my brother P for bringing this to my attention. And basically, the bill is aiming to make NIL exempt from Georgia state taxes, which would put them on par with states like Tennessee, Florida, and Texas. You could maybe throw Washington into that mix, but they don't really have any programs as far as NIL goes that can compete with the other states that I just talked about. So we're talking about, if this thing can get passed, that would be a huge problem for pretty much everybody, just because there is so much talent here in the state of Georgia. And NIL is a major part of the reason that players are picking, whatever school that they want to go to. They're not going to come out and say that, but trust me when I tell you, they're looking into all that type of stuff. The agents know what states don't have the state taxes and how far is this money really going to go. So you could get a higher offer from the University of Georgia than you get from Tennessee, but the offer could actually be more coming from Tennessee because you get to hold on to more money. Now, Georgia really isn't a school that offers too much money to players anyway. They like to make them take hometown discounts. So this could actually end up helping programs like Georgia Tech out a little bit more. Georgia Tech probably has more NIL money to spend than the University of Georgia does. I know that they have a lot more millionaire graduates because 1 in every 5 graduates from Georgia Tech is a millionaire, or at least that's how it used to be. Either way, though, this could have some major implications if it ends up getting passed. And right now, it sounds like 5 senators and Georgia's Governor Kemp, are all backing this bill. So it's at 25%. They need, more people to obviously back this. Historically, this would never get passed in the state of Georgia, but these days, anything is possible. I think that if they could, get the right people to see some monetization benefits from this, then they could get this passed. And for me, it would it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because I don't want Georgia to, be on the same playing field as Tennessee by any means. But at the same time, I feel like NIL might have been going away. And I know that it's supposed to be, covered by all federal laws and all that type of stuff. But I don't know how much that type of stuff matters these days. So I was kind of thinking, hey, it might end up getting kind of like washed away. But if they can find a way, like I just talked about, to bring some monetization benefits to the right people inside of our government, then NIL will be here to stay. And that's a positive thing from my perspective, because I'm all for NIL. I think that the players need to get paid. And obviously coming up, I think in July, we're going to have the, overall hearing on what we're going to do as far as the revenue sharing and things like that. It should not really impact NIL that much. NIL is not supposed to be able to go away, but I think that it could still have some major ramifications on the entire country if the state of Georgia can find a way to get NIL to be tax exempt in the state compared to some of these other places with all the talent here. Man, that could definitely spell trouble for our Vols and really for the rest of this country. But that's it for this video. Those are my thoughts. Please share yours with me down in the comment section. And as always, please do make sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, share with your friends, family, and other volunteer fans. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Thanks. Peace.